Ever feel like your brain just freezes when you meet someone new? You know you should say something, but like all those smooth greetings you've heard just vanish. You're not alone, though. We're diving into the science and art of introductions today. So you can ditch the awkwardness and make those first encounters really count.
Yeah, it's amazing how much psychology actually goes into those very initial moments. We're all kind of wired to make these really quick judgments, but a well-crafted introduction can actually rewire those first impressions, paving the way for real connection.
Okay, so it's not just about like being polite, it's strategic.
Absolutely.
But like, where do we even begin?
Well, think of introductions like a dance. There's a basic framework, but the specific steps you take change based on, the music, your partner, and the overall vibe that you're going for.
I like that. I like that analogy. So are there like different dances for meeting someone at like a work conference versus, I don't know, chatting someone up at a concert?
Precisely. Yeah. Let's break it down. So imagine you're at that conference, right? Surrounded by potential clients or collaborators. Your introduction needs to be clear, concise, and you want to convey your professional value. You might say something like, "Hi, I'm your name, and I help companies like yours streamline their marketing strategies."
Okay, so like straight to the point.
Yeah.
But what if you're at a concert and you just spot someone rocking out to like your favorite band?
Then the dance becomes much more relaxed and playful. You could open with something like, "Wow, they are really killing it tonight.
Right.
I'm your name, by the way. Have you seen them live before?"
Nice. So it's all about finding that common ground, right, to spark a conversation.
Right.
But is there a formula for getting those basics down?
Absolutely. Every good introduction, no matter the context, has these three core elements. First, you signal your intent to engage, whether it's a simple hello or a more formal good evening.
Okay, so step one, let them know you're about to say hi.
Exactly.
What's next?
Then comes the all-important name exchange. This is where you clearly state your name and invite them to share theirs. It seems simple, but a lot of people fumble this part.
And I bet remembering names is key, right?
Yes, key.
I'm terrible at that. Any tips?
Oh, of course.
Yeah.
Here's a pro tip. When they say their name, repeat it back to them. Not only does this help you remember, but it shows you're actively listening and value getting it right.
Little things, right, those little cues.
Yeah.
Okay, so signal intent, names are exchanged. What is that final element?
You need a bridge to further conversation. This could be a compliment, a comment about the environment, or a question that invites them to share.
Got it. Okay. So at that concert, that could be asking about their favorite song, and at the conference, maybe asking what brought them to the event.
Exactly. Those bridges move you beyond just names and into actual connection.
Uh,
But here's where it gets really interesting. Even with these basic elements in place, your delivery can make or break the intro.
Oh, you mean like tone of voice and body language?
You nailed it. Think back to those snap judgments that we mentioned. People unconsciously pick up on those nonverbals, and they form an impression before you even utter a word.
So I can't just like mumble my name and expect them to be impressed.
Not quite. You want to project confidence with good posture, make eye contact, and offer a genuine smile. And here's a subtle but powerful trick. Try to match their energy level. If they're super enthusiastic, mirror that excitement. If they're more reserved, tone it down a notch.
Yeah, that makes sense. You're establishing rapport before even getting into the conversation, really. So it sounds like nailing an introduction is like a mix of strategy and social skills.
Absolutely.
I feel like we've already uncovered so much, but I'm curious, are there any psychological hacks that can help us make those introductions even more impactful?
Of course. Let's delve into some of those next, and I guarantee you'll come away with techniques you can start using right away.
Okay, my brain is already like buzzing with all these introduction strategies. You mentioned some psychological hacks that can boost our first impression game. Spill the secrets.
All right, so get ready for this one. It's called the Ben Franklin effect. Ever heard of it?
Sounds vaguely familiar, but I can't quite place it.
Well, Ben Franklin was a master of diplomacy, and he discovered that asking someone for a small favor actually makes them like you more.
Wait, really? That seems so counterintuitive.
Yeah, it's all about cognitive dissonance.
Hmm.
Our brains don't like inconsistency. So when we do something nice for someone, we tend to justify it by thinking we must actually like them.
Okay, so how does this play into introductions? I can't exactly ask a stranger to lend me $20 right off the bat.
Right, think smaller, Maybe ask for a recommendation like, hey, I'm new in town. Any suggestions for a good coffee shop around here? Or you could ask for their opinion on something like, I love your jacket. Do you mind me asking where you got it?
That's brilliant. It's not only a conversation starter, but it subtly makes them feel like they've already done something nice for you. I'm adding that to my arsenal.
Good. And here's another psychological trick. Mirroring. We talked about matching energy levels, but you can also subtly mirror their body language.
So if they lean in, I lean in too. Sounds a bit like I'm copying them.
It's not about being obvious, more like creating a sense of subconscious harmony. Subtle mirroring signals that you're on the same wavelength, building that rapport and trust.
I see. Okay, I'm starting to see how these little tweaks can really add up, but what about those super awkward situations like what if I completely blank on someone's name like 5 minutes after meeting them?
Don't panic. It happens to the best of us. Honestly is often the best policy. You could say something like, forgive me, I've spoken to so many people today. Your name has slipped my mind. Would you mind reminding me?
Right, takes the pressure off. And it's way better than fumbling around and pretending I remember.
Exactly. Owning up to those little slip-ups makes you relatable, more human. People appreciate authenticity, even in those slightly embarrassing moments.
Yeah, so it's not about being perfect, it's about being genuine.
Exactly. And speaking of authenticity, one thing that often gets overlooked is the power of a genuine compliment.
Everyone loves a good compliment, but isn't that a bit risky? I don't want to seem insincere or creepy.
The key is to be specific and observational. Instead of a generic, you look nice, try something like, that color really complements your eyes, or you have such a warm and engaging smile.
Oh, those are so much more personal and meaningful. It shows you're actually paying attention to them as an individual.
Exactly. And when you deliver a compliment with sincerity, it creates a positive emotional connection that sets the tone for the entire interaction.
Wow, we've gone from basic greetings to psychological mind games. I'm feeling so much more confident already. But I have to ask, is there anything we should avoid doing when making introductions?
There are definitely some pitfalls to watch out for, and we'll unpack those next, so you can avoid those common introduction blunders.
Okay, we've covered so much ground already, from the basic formula to some seriously slick psychological techniques. But you mentioned some common introduction blunders to avoid. What are those conversation killers that we should all watch out for?
Yeah, one of the biggest mistakes people make is dominating the conversation. They launch into this lengthy monologue about themselves, leaving the other person feeling like an audience member rather than like a participant.
Oh, I've definitely been guilty of that. You get so nervous and you just start rambling to fill the silence.
Yeah, it's a natural reaction. But it can backfire. Instead of focusing on yourself, try asking open-ended questions that invite the other person to share. Remember, people love to talk about themselves, and being a good listener is a powerful way to make a positive impression.
So it's not about being like the most interesting person in the room, it's about being genuinely interested in the other person.
Exactly. And that leads to another common pitfall, like interrupting or talking over someone. It shows a lack of respect and can instantly derail the conversation.
Yeah, there's nothing worse than feeling like you're not being heard.
Absolutely. Active listening involves not just waiting for your turn to speak, but truly absorbing what the other person is saying and responding thoughtfully.
So it's about being present in the moment and engaging with their words.
Precisely. And while enthusiasm is great, another mistake is being overly eager or coming on too strong. It can make people feel uncomfortable or pressured.
Right. There's a fine line between friendly and overbearing. How do we strike that balance?
Just pay attention to their cues. If they're leaning back or giving short responses, it might be a sign to dial back the intensity a bit. Remember, building rapport is a gradual process, not a race to the finish line.
Right. It's about respecting their boundaries and letting the conversation unfold organically.
Now, here's a mistake that often goes unnoticed: neglecting to introduce others. If you're with a group of people and someone new joins, take the initiative to make introductions and facilitate a smooth social interaction.
Yeah, that's such a simple but important point. It makes everyone feel included and avoids those awkward standing around not knowing anyone moments.
Exactly. And finally, one blunder that can leave a lasting negative impression is forgetting someone's name shortly after meeting them. We talked about honestly asking for a reminder if that happens, but even better is to make a conscious effort to remember names from the start.
Do you have any tips for like improving name recall? It's always been my Achilles heel.
Yeah, one effective technique is to repeat their name back to them during the introduction and try to use it naturally in the conversation like a couple of times. It reinforces that connection in your mind.
Right. So it's like creating a mental anchor for that name. I love it.
And you can also try associating their name with a visual image or a memorable characteristic. It makes them stand out in your mind.
Okay, that's brilliant. It's like giving your brain a little reminder.
Exactly. And the more you practice these techniques, the more confident you'll become in remembering names and avoiding those embarrassing slip-ups.
Wow. We've really gone from Intro 101 to Masterclass level here. I'm feeling so much more equipped to handle any introduction scenario now.
I'm so glad to hear that. And remember, the key to mastering any skill is practice. The more you put yourself out there and engage in conversations, the more natural and enjoyable it will become.
So true. And the rewards are so worth it. After all, every introduction has the potential to spark a new friendship, a valuable connection, or even a life-changing opportunity.
Beautifully said. So go out there, embrace those introductions with confidence, and see what amazing connections you can create.
This has been such an insightful and empowering conversation. I know our listeners are ready to ditch the awkwardness and become introduction masters. Thanks for joining us. Until next time, keep those conversations flowing and those connections growing.